All right, let's find the equation of a line that passes through 1, 7, and 4, negative 2. Now, what's different about this setup is there from all the other ones we've done so far?
Have a slope.
I did not give you the slope. Does that mean we can't do it?
No, you
I have to do what?
to find the slope, and then you have to plug it back into what we were just
I
doing.
have to find the slope, because as soon as I find the slope, then it resorts back to the same kinds of problems we've already done. How do you find the slope?
M equal y2 minus y1.
Right, and in case you forget the order of things, it's rise over run. Rise connects with which variable? Isn't it the y? The run corresponds to the change in your x, so that's why it's the y's over the x's, the change in y over the change in x. Now, I don't care how you label these points because, frankly, it doesn't matter. If I'd given you this point first and then this point second, it doesn't matter. The slope between the points is always the same, right? The slope between any 2 points on that particular line is always going to be the same. So if you want to call this one x1, y1, and this x2, y2, you can do that. So let's do that and let's plug in and see what we get. What is y2?
-2.
Negative 2 minus, what's y1?
7.
7. What's x2?
4.
4 minus, what's x1?
1.
1. What do we get? Right, negative 2 minus a 7 is negative 9, and then 4 minus 1 is 3. Had you labeled your points differently, if you said this was the second point and this was the first, you would have had the same numbers. Their signs would have been, it would have been positive 9 over negative 3, but when you do the division, you would still get what? You'd still get negative 3 when you finish this, right? So we're saying that my slope is equal to negative 3 when I do this work. Now, this is not my answer, but it's part of my answer. Now, notice that's a pretty nice answer for the slope. It's a whole number, or I guess an integer. It's technically not a whole number. So since it's an integer, we should use the slope-intercept form because it'll be really fast and quick. So we know the slope-intercept form is what? Y equals mx plus b. So now see, when we use this slope-intercept form, we knew the slope and we knew a point. I've got 2 points. Does it matter which one you use?
No.
Which one do you want to use?
4.
See, I would not say 4, negative 2. We can, but I would prefer something where it's all positive. Because you know me, that's my attitude. I'm always positive.
Mm-hmm.
But since you're kind of negative today, we'll use 4, negative 2. So what's your y value?
7.
I thought we were going to use 4, negative 2. So what's your y value?
-2.
Negative 2. What's your slope?
-3.
What's your x?
4.
4. All right. Can you solve this guy?
-2 equals -12 plus b.
Negative 2 equals negative 12 plus b.
10 equals b.
Add the 12 to both sides, and you find out that 10 equals b. Now, this is not my final answer. But the b and the m will come together to give you your equation, which is what? Y equals negative 3x plus 10. Okay, so we didn't know the slope. We found the slope because we had the formula for slope. And I used the slope plus, it didn't matter which point. I chose this one because we have some negative people today. And we were able to get if you'd used 1, 7, you still would have gotten the same answer. Do you believe me? Yes.
Would it make a difference if you start off by saying, okay, negative 7 equals negative 3 times 4 plus b? It's still all going to come out the same, right?
7, not negative 7, but if you'd used 7 and 1, you would have gotten the same thing. You would have gotten the exact same thing. Because b gives me the y-intercept, or the y-coordinate for the y-intercept, right? So it doesn't matter what point I have when I'm solving this equation to find that y-intercept. It's going to be the same y-intercept, right? Because it's that one line that we're talking about. And if it's not the same, We've made a mistake somewhere. Okay. Let's try this one. Suppose I want to pass through. Suppose I want to pass through the points 3, -4, and -2, 7. It's just like the one we just did, so what do we need to do first? Find the slope, so we know the slope is the change in y over the change in x. So again, it doesn't really matter how you label these.
Are you going to give us that formula on the test?
I give you no formulas on anything that I give you. I'm sorry if you have been misled by ratemyprofessor.com. So what is y2?
Seven.
y2 is 7, so parentheses 7 minus what's y1? What's x2?
-2.
-2 minus what's x1?
3.
Use parentheses when you plug into this formula so you don't make mistakes, especially when you look here in the numerator and you see you've got a negative, negative. This minus here is from the formula. The negative is from the coordinate. So what does that give me in the numerator? That becomes a positive 11 over what? Right, we can just write that as negative 11 fifths. So this guy right here is going to be my slope. Do you all agree? They can't help but think that that looks like a cloud with a face. All right, so if that's my slope, what do you guys want to use?
Y equals mx plus b.
You really like the y equals mx plus b, right? All right.
Well, I do, I don't know everybody else.
Well, it's, hey, y equals mx plus b. So which point do you want to use? 3, -4 or -2, 7? Doesn't matter, so let's use 3, -4. It's the first one. So what's your y value? Equals, my slope is negative 11 fifths. What's your x?
3.
And b is what we're trying to find out. Do you all agree? So I get -4 equals negative 33 fifths plus b. How do I convert the -4 into fifths?
Add negative 33 over 5 to negative 4.
So it's missing a factor of what? Here, on the left. Isn't it a factor of 5 that I'm missing to get that common denominator? So that means I have a negative 20 fifths. I'm adding the 33 fifths to the left side, and that equals b. So what does b equal now? B equals 13 fifths. So this is my slope up here. This is my b. So what does that mean? Negative 11 fifths x plus 13 fifths. So the really tough part about this wasn't getting the slope. The tough part was not writing this equation. What was the tough part? Working with fractions.
Because you have to find a common denominator.
Yeah, but it's stuff that we're supposed to know. So it's still based off things that you're supposed to know. So this is how you, it's getting the common denominator. You get your b, combine it with your slope, and you get that. Now, if you want to go into standard form from this, what's the common denominator for everybody?
5.
If you had multiplied everything here times 5, what would you get? 5y equals negative 11x plus 13. Because here, look, 5 times y is 5y. 5 times negative 11 over 5, the 5's reduced, right?
Mhm.
You get negative 11x. And then here, 5 times 13 over 5, the 5's reduced, you get 13. And what would you do to get all the variables to one side?
Wait,
I'm not gonna divide.
no, add 11x.
Move this guy over, so that's a positive 11x. It's a positive 5y equals 13. So this is your standard form for that particular equation.
Either way works, right?
Either way is the same, yeah.